Kevin Charbonneau on the City Council.
Rick Efford Chase, Mayor of Newport.
And I'm Casey Winterson, the Director of Economic and Community-Based Services at Northeast Kingdom Community Action.
And maybe we could just do introductions of other folks in the room. Hey, Tim's here. Great. Come on in, Tim.
Hey, Tim.
You want to start, Pam?
Yeah, I'm Pam Lads. I'm filming this for NEK-TV, but I'm here as a resident of Newport.
I'm Ann Sherlock. That's my partner. I'm here because I'm interested in making sure that everyone hears the voice of people who are unhoused and can hopefully be very sympathetic to their plight. Come up with solutions and not aggravations for them.
Thank you.
Tom Evans, interested resident.
I'm Sarah Rice. I work at Journey Recovery Community Center.
Sarah, were you sent by Journey Recovery to kind of represent today?
I was. Lila and Melissa were hoping to be able to be here, but they weren't, so they asked me to come.
I'm join us up here. This is Travis Gates. Hey, Travis.
Sorry about that.
Yes.
So it happens when you do introductions.
Okay,
Yeah.
great. Sounds good. Okay. And Travis Gaines is on his way. Tell me your last name again, Sarah.
Rice.
Rice. Okay.
I'm Brenda Lothar, and I'm the care coordinator for Joshua House. So if you don't know, Joshua House is about preventing homelessness, and we're very active, very busy, and really believe in this whole topic.
Hi, Tim Daly, and I was the president of Joshua House for about 5 years, just stepped away, but still on the board. Just concerned about what's happening in the community and wanting just to know, what's going to happen with people as we move people around and shifting and whatnot. So I'm concerned and curious.
Thank you. Chris?
Hey everyone, I'm Chris Mitchell, the AHS Field Services Director for Newport and St. Johnsbury districts. Good to see everyone. Sorry I couldn't be there in person.
Are you on vacation?
I'm not. I had a surgery last week on my ankle, so slightly immobile.
All right, well then I'm not going to chew you out for being here. Jenna?
Hi, Jenna O'Farrell, Executive Director at NEK-TV, Northeast Kingdom Community Action. Thanks.
Thanks, Jenna. And I'll just say I did receive a phone call this afternoon from Travis Bingham, the Chief of Police, and they had a bomb threat over at the high school today that has apparently been resolved with no one being injured, but he's going to be tied up over there for the rest of the afternoon and into the evening probably. And Travis Gaines just called and said he just got out of meetings at the school at UCA and he hopes to come over. So we're not nobody. We got a bunch of us here. Do you want to start? Do you want me to start? How do you want to do this, Ken?
Well, I thought the revisions were done on the ordinance and everybody got a copy, but since the two authors aren't here, that'll be on the back burner. And we were exploring other options, and I don't know if we got as far as the protocols of who to call, what to call.
I don't know. Maybe we could have Chris or Casey update on the meeting that I attended while I was on vacation and anything else that you think we ought to know as we get started today. And then I've got one update about conversations about potential short-term housing options here.
Yeah, I'm going to kick that to either Jenna or Chris because I was also not at the last meeting. I was on vacation as well. So.
Sure. Yeah, feel free to jump in wherever. Rick, I assume you were referring to the local housing coalition meeting?
I was, yes.
Yeah, so a few weeks ago now, Rick joined us at the local housing coalition to give a brief overview of this task force here, some of the ideas we've been batting around, and essentially to get their input and support and buy-in for some type of project to support the Newport area. I think it was pretty clear and unanimous that people would welcome anything at this point to help better support and serve the individuals in our community. So I wouldn't say that we came out of that with anything really tangible per se, but we do have the support from the local service providers and a lot of interest in sort of an all hands on deck approach to get something going or up and going here in the Newport area. So I think that group is a good group to sort of bounce ideas off of, knowing that that is a lot of the direct service staff to support the individuals that are unhoused or precariously housed in our community. I think leave it at that for this portion of the conversation, but happy to answer any questions too.
So I'll just add to that I mean, I was really just kind of sharing about what we've done so far this summer and described kind of 3 tracks that we've been working on. One is, what do we do this winter about making sure that there are options for people who become housing insecure on the spur of the moment, and how do we come up with overnight solutions for them that are workable. And then a second conversation about what the longer term possibilities are for some kind of shelter provision with wraparound services tied to it, that we could look at for, it's not likely that any of that would come together in the next couple of months, but it might be something we could work on for long term. And then a final track, which is looking at trying to create an appropriate ordinance to give some guidance to the police department about how it is we want to respond to folks who are housing insecure. So, I felt like folks were very receptive and, as Chris says, interested in trying to be helpful. And I think, so I guess from my perspective, if you just think about those 3 tracks that have kind of emerged this summer, on the first track, I'll just give an update, and then if other people have other updates we can give as well, that's great. But Travis reached out initially, Travis Bingham reached out to Elia Spates, and there is apparently a possibility of an apartment that is located in the downtown area that would be appropriate and could probably handle up to 6 people at a time if we want to pursue that conversation. I saw Elia 2 days ago and had a very cordial and warm conversation about that, but we didn't begin to get to specifics. So there is a building available, an apartment available, and if we had a group of people who would like to go pursue that with her, I think she and Men from Magog Rentals would be more than happy to have a conversation with us about that. And I'll just say about that apartment, it's an apartment right downtown here, and it's one that Jay Peak either owns or owned and outfitted for their short-term employees, winter employees, I think. And so it's actually set up in a way that would probably work pretty well for something like this. So I thought that was a hopeful conversation. And if this group thinks that it's worth pursuing, I'd be happy to be a part of pursuing that conversation, though I don't think I should be the only one doing it. We should see who else would like to be involved in that conversation and try and set up a meeting with her. There's also, Elliot let me know about another possibility for someone who is downtown and has a house that is going up for sale and that may be appropriate as well for something longer term. It would be larger. It's got several kitchens, and I'm not prepared to talk about kind of who that is yet because I haven't had any direct conversation with that person, but we're working on trying to set up a time next week to meet. And there too, if we can nail down a time and there's somebody who would like to join me in that conversation, I'd be thrilled to have other people in the conversation with us. And I wasn't really making any assumptions about whether one of those options is better than the other in the short term, whether that option might be a long-term option that would be better than the one we were talking about by the hospital. We're nowhere near far enough for any of that, but I thought it was intriguing that there are at least a couple of people interested in being in conversation with us.
I misheard your question when you first asked it. I wasn't at that meeting with the Local Housing Coalition. I thought you were talking about the last meeting here, so
Right.
I apologize on that. It was great to have you. I think that we did have a very strong conversation in that space. And as expected, the service providers that are part of the Local Housing Coalition are totally on board with continuing the conversation and facilitating that conversation within the Local Housing Coalition. And the meeting, I think, there's been conversation about pulling out some sort of work group that we can continue to pull folks in, different service providers, different players, to be able to have some of those conversations. I have not yet seen the space that Elia has offered up, but she did also reach out to me as well. So
Good.
I think it'd be great, maybe next week, to get it on the docket for us. And I don't know if Chris could be available to be able to go maybe see both of those locations, try to do it, in one swoop if possible, just so that we know what we're looking at for like square footage and stuff like that. Because it's one thing for it to be a private space that is being rented by a company or a landlord, whereas when it starts to get into the shelter, there are some rules and regulations that we'll have to follow for egress and safety and things like that. So I think that is a great first step. And if you would like to facilitate that, those next conversations.
I'm looking right now to see if they've responded to me yet, and if so, we could try and nail something down today.
Okay, perfect.
Are there others around the table who would like to be a part of going and taking a look at either or both of these options next week?
I think it's helpful to keep it small at this point. So if it was just maybe Chris, you and I, we can start from there and pull it back again, pulling it back into the Local Housing Coalition. We can then we can present what the spaces look like to other possible players, like the Office of Economic Opportunity, and look at what structures might be available for the possibility of funding for operations and such.
Okay, she did respond already, not Elia, but I think Elia could make this work also. For 11:30 on Tuesday. That work for you, Chris? What's your life like on Tuesday, Casey?
Tuesday the 2nd?
Yeah.
Yeah, I still make that work.
I have a meeting. Let me get back to you.
Okay. Why don't I see also if I can get Elia lined up at like 11 that day, so we could have a half hour with Elia and then go meet this other person. Okay.
Yeah. That
All right.
works.
Are you comfortable with Chris and I doing this first conversation without you if you can't make it, or do you want to try and
Could we
find another
do
time?
it so maybe do the 11:30 and then noon?
I suspect noon won't work for Elia because
Okay.
I know that's a Rotary day.
Yeah, set it up. If I can make it, I will try to be there. I think that I might be able to get some coverage for that meeting.
Okay, she might be able to do noon. I'll check with her and see if she's okay going late to Rotary
Yeah.
too. I just know that she's there on time pretty much every week.
Cool.
Okay.
Great.
All right. Jenna, are there any updates you wanted to give us since it's been, 3 weeks since we met last?
No, I don't have any updates.
Okay. And is there anything from Journey to Recovery?
I think I did share with the Secretary's office about this potential apartment space, and they are certainly interested in entertaining sort of budget proposals if it seems like it would be fitting for our community. So I don't think there's a project too small at this point.
So to the Secretary's office, can you say more about that, Chris, for me and others in the room who might not know what that means?
Sure. So, the AHS Secretary's office is sort of the office that corresponds with the governor's office, and in some ways oversees the other various departments around AHS. So there's an ongoing shelter development meeting that takes place monthly. And they, at this next upcoming meeting, are interested to hear more about this potential project and idea. So the more information we can gather and share with them, the better. And again, I think think that they're well aware of the governor's statement at his previous press conference in Newport. So interested to sort of hear what we think as sort of the local service providers.
Okay. Well, then, and so am I correct that basically the idea would be we would go and look at options, come back to this table and discuss those options a little bit, put together some numbers, and then approach the local housing coalition group first, and then go to the secretary? Or do we, like, is there an order in which we have to do these things, I guess I'm asking?
I think,
Go ahead, Chris.
I was just going to say, I think if we want to take a look at thinking about timeliness, right? We don't have a lot of time before it's going to start getting cold. There's already been some chilly evenings here and there. So I think if we go and look at this space, and not that we don't want input from a lot of folks, if there's a space that's warm, that has a roof, and is available for a reasonable amount of money that we can operate, I say we sort of proceed with that and get as much support after the fact. I know that I don't know, these processes do take time, and we want to make sure we're checking all of the boxes, but if we can sort of move as quickly as possible, I think that's going to be our best bet.
Yeah, I would agree. I think that it's a saying, don't let good get in the way of, or don't let perfect get in the way of good. I'd rather have something, even if it's that, 6 beds is a small number, but it's 6 more beds than we currently have. So I think, similar to what Chris said, being able to pull that together, and I also think of some of the other players that will be necessary in partnership with the operation side of things. That's something that Chris and I can work on from the local housing coalition perspective, and together pull that kind of meeting together. And then if we think of more of the long term, that might be something that we can work on in more of a space here, but for the immediacy of getting some space available for folks that isn't in St. Johnsbury or in one of the hotels and is in Newport, I think that the quicker the better, because it does have some lead up time, unfortunately.
I think local housing coalition will be our venue to get like supplemental services, right? And so if we can handle sort of the space and operation and getting those two things in order, we use the local housing coalition to leverage other service providers, whether that's them being on site, providing routine services a certain day of the week, sort of et cetera, et cetera.
Works for me. I think, Kevin, unless this is going to bind the city in some way, and it doesn't sound like it likely would for this short-term option, we don't have to go back to the council. We'll just report to the council on the progress we're making.
Right. I mean, it's short-term housing now. It's not decided which agency would kind of spearhead, oversee.
Good question. I don't think we're there yet, right? But Casey, are you thinking NECA would be available to help with something like that? Or
Yeah, I think there would definitely be one of the options. I think that it will be pulling in as many community partners as we can, and we currently are operating our 20-bed shelter down in St. Johnsbury as the sole operator, and I think any time that we can add extra assistance in, but I don't think we've fully nailed that down yet, but the application will have to come from an agency that is working with the state and
already
501c3, not necessarily already, but has to be able to receive the funds. So usually typically a nonprofit. So unless there's a creation of a Newport nonprofit on the short-term table for housing based out of this meeting, then I think that probably will be where it ends up, maybe through us.
I think that would be one of the questions, given our financial situation, is Newport paying for this? And we could say no, but we're.
Yeah, I don't hear anything that we're saying so far that would obligate the city in any way financially.
Right.
For the short-term solutions. I think the long-term questions we're not anywhere near ready to talk about yet. Ann?
Can I just ask, is there an assumption that this is for singles, for males? And then what about single women, and what about families in terms of housing in these emergency situations? Or,
Yeah.
or does that not arise?
That's a great question. So, I mean, hypothetically speaking, because again, there's still a lot of details that need to be worked out. I think that it could look very similar to how the shelter at Moose River is in St. Johnsbury, which is we allow anybody in, anyone over the age of 18. So that does leave a gap partially in this area around a family shelter. We actually don't have a family shelter in the kingdom, period, like full stop. What we do have are emergency units that NEK-TV manages. We have 10 of them across the Northeast Kingdom that is specific for families. So folks come in, NEK-TV master leases the shelters from other community partners such as Member Maydog Rentals or Rural Edge, for instance. And that is a whole separate program that we administer. So I think that is one of our options. We also have partnerships with the local shelter, the family shelters. And I believe, and maybe Chris can speak more to this, there's specific family shelters, I believe, throughout the state that are being stood up for this period of time that are not local, but they are in our state.
They were previously in Waterbury and Williston. The Williston shelter was taken over by a nonprofit in Chittenden County and still continues to operate. In that we do accept referrals from throughout the state, so that would be an option, albeit not local. But.
Yeah. And then there's also the general assistance program, which we don't know what that will look like this winter. It's always a question of what the adverse weather conditions look like, which is typically the cold months, and how they're going to allow or not allow individuals for what period of time based on what information. So since COVID, it's been like a chunk of time from a date to a date. Previous to COVID, it was based on the weather and based on what the operation was deemed on for that adverse weather. Outside of that, there is general assistance, which is the 80-day or the 80 nights stay through the hotels, which still does exist, but folks are only able to access the 80 nights per calendar year. So I think it's going to be, as it always, I think anyone that works in the world of housing knows it's a bit of a scrappy fight throughout the winter months of like pulling all the little pieces and threads together to keep people housed the best to our ability. But I think that even having single option beds here in Newport will be helpful to get some of the folks off the street. And if they do come in as a couple, for instance, we have that as well. We just treat each individual as a single bed. So.
Do you folks, like especially Tim and Brenda, do you have anything that you came wanting to try and share or talk about in terms of, or questions you have based on what you've heard so far this afternoon?
No, it's interesting. It's the idea that's been being worked on for years about bringing this together, with always finding people that will run the house, right? I mean, because you need to have that. So I just found the meeting interesting. I think that I'm going to leave in a few minutes. We're doing the Bernie thing. And, it's, so it doesn't really sound like it's going yet. Is that my understanding?
That's correct. Yeah. Yep.
And just to be clear, because we haven't really said it this time, but depending on what we find when we start looking at housing options, we've talked about the possibility that this isn't something that would be constantly, open every night. It would be available every night if needed, but we wouldn't be trying to staff it on a nightly basis. So we'd be available, there'd be a place available if somebody said, all of a sudden I got nothing, I got nowhere to go. We would have a plan that would involve some constellation of the various social service providers in town and any volunteers that we find appropriate ways to use as a part of that support system to make sure that people get into a warm spot, have a meal, the opportunity for a shower, that kind of thing.
Yeah,
So-
I think that's one, that could be one option. I think the idea would be actually to run it more like the shelter at Moose River.
So it'd be open every day?
It'd be a staffed shelter, yeah, that would be staffed. And it could be a warming shelter that is staffed throughout the cold months. Or it could be like Moose River, which is 365. That's what the state is really interested in. It's, there is also what you are speaking to is the other program that Chris and I have been talking about when we've been coming to this space, which is a different pot of funding that the interfaith group has, and that is based on just the coldest nights of the year. But I think that there's ways to braid and weave all of those into the same space, and be able to leverage funds in different, from different pockets to be able to do the thing. But yeah, I think the goal that thinking about the conversations we've had with local housing coalitions around this table is that it would be a shelter that would be available more in alignment with the Moose River shelter. Then it's just harder to staff those ones. It sounds crazy to think about staffing something for 365, but 24/7, 365, but it's a lot easier than having to call people in at moment's notice. So I think there's some sort of happy medium that we can find, but right now I think that that's probably what the state's most interested in is a shelter, either that's a warming shelter or open for an extended period, or 365.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And the application for the funding from the Vermont Interfaith Council Foundation, can't remember the last board they put in their field. I believe the applications will be released next week, so we'll have a better idea of what the requirements are to receive that funding as far as, egress and accessibility and how much money essentially per night. So more to come on that.
Okay.
We're leaving, but thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you both.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions about this? It sounds like what we need to do is wait for that application to be released and go look at what our current options are. It's nice that we have some to talk about. And then it sounds like we should move ahead. If we find an option that's workable, we aren't going to try and wait to come back here for 2 weeks from now. We just start moving ahead and we report back in 2 weeks on any progress that we've been making.
I'd say the only addition to that is just being thoughtful of if the application itself does go through the Office of Economic Opportunity, we will need, the application needs a signature that it's an allowable use, that space is an allowable use. And I know that was part of the conversation around, I don't know if there's any zoning pieces around that, but it would need your approval. So I would assume it would need the whole committee's approval.
We'll double check it, but my initial conversation with the zoning administrator is that there's nothing in the current or proposed bylaws that preclude the possibility of offering emergency shelter to people in the downtown area.
Perfect.
So you're right that it needs to be double checked to make sure that we're not setting ourselves up.
That would be a big
And part of it honestly is going to be how we help manage the expectations. So once we know what we're really planning, then I think we want some kind of an open forum or at least an open session in a council meeting where community members can come and express their own ideas, thoughts, concerns, whatever, raise questions, so that we're not just all of a sudden presenting people with a fait accompli.
And that would include having wraparound services. So if somebody went there, they would also get the appropriate services they may need, mental health or drug counseling or something.
Yeah, I'd be happy if you ever are down in the St. Johnsbury area to take you through the Moose River site. You can see kind of how we operate it currently. But regular access to all of those things. It'd be a partnership, I'm sure, with Journey to Recovery, with NKHS, which is right now at the Moose River site. We partner with NKHS and with umbrella and with the Recovery Center in St. Johnsbury down there. So yes, and they're right in the downtown, so they've got access to the food shelf, they've got access to the thrift store, they've got access to the other NECA services, and typically, again, based off of if it looks anything similar to the shelter at Moose River, there would be staff there that are there all the time as housing supports that are trying to get them rehoused and reconnected to whomever, whatever supports they may need. So.
Casey, what are the requirements? Is there a limit on a number of nights that someone can stay in the Moose River shelter? And how do you find your statistics play out over time? Like how long, what's a typical stay for someone?
It really depends. I don't have any stats that right off the top of my head, but I definitely can get some. I would say, well, first of all, no, there's not a cap on nights at the Moose River site. We've had folks that have been there for an extended period of time. It's really, I think the interesting thing, the one thing that I can kind of anecdotally think about with this, not a specific stat, but is the folks that are of our senior population typically spend the longest majority of time there because there are not often a lot of options to get them out into a place that is sustainable for them. But yeah, we've got folks that have been there for an extended period of time. We've also got a step up program at an apartment that is kind of connected to the Moose River site. So if folks are, really successful and moving and they're moving towards kind of moving out into their own apartment, we actually have a 4-bedroom apartment that we utilize. That's kind of a step down in services, but a step up in kind of their own ability and learning skills and all of that of what it looks like to live in an apartment. And but yeah, I think it would really be based on the need of the community. Mm-hmm. So if the community's need is that extended, which typically is the case because it's quite difficult to find housing for folks, then that would, again, it really comes down to what it all fizzles out to be and how the operational, what it looks like on an operations side. But I think that would probably be the need that we would see in this community too, and is the need, I guess, realistically that we are seeing is for more extended periods of time for folks to get into shelter and stay and be able to be in a safe, dignified place for a space of time while they get their feet underneath them and access to vouchers and case management apartments, whatever it may be.
Okay. Pam?
So you're looking at a model where whoever comes in doesn't get kicked out during the day, but has access during the day and stays, has a bed consistently for whatever it takes.
Yeah, that I think again, how it all shakes out. That's I think that will be in the devil's in the details. But as we operate Moose River right now, it is folks come in and they don't have to depart at 7 o'clock in the morning. They have access to the space all day. So if we based it off of a model similar to that, then yeah. And again, it depends what the space is. I mean, if it's a 6-bedroom, or if it's an apartment with 6 beds in it and it's not, there's not a space.
No sitting area.
Yeah, yes, exactly. Then we might have to look at another option of a daytime shelter, a day space, or leaning on other community partners that we might have within town that may be able to stand something up as a warm location, whether it be a church basement, a library, a town building, whatever it might be, where folks could go. But I think we'll figure that all out once we kind of have a better picture and idea of the space. Yeah,
that's great. Anything else about this? Okay. Travis, before you got here, I was saying that Travis Bingham, I don't think you were here when I described what was going on for him today, but I assume you heard about
We were in lockdown as well.
You were as well. Yeah. So that's where he is trying to clean that up. But
very hectic afternoon.
Yeah, so thank you for coming. Kevin and I had a very brief conversation before we started, and I was recommending that we put off the next reading of the ordinance until our next meeting so that Travis can be here to be a part of it, because he missed the last one too.
Yeah.
So I recommend that we do that, just to kind of give people a global sense of what's in my head. I would really like us to be able to go back to the city council, either at the meeting on September 15th, or what would it be, whatever that first meeting is in October. I don't have the date off the top of my head. But to go to the city council with kind of a package report. Here's what we're thinking about short-term solutions for this winter. Here are the initial ideas we have about what strategies might look like longer term. And here is the work of this group on the ordinance, which is what started this conversation for the city council in the first place. And ask the city council to take a look at, just to be aware of those things, and then determine whether or not we want to go ahead with an ordinance for this year. So, okay, go ahead, Pam.
You might have some commentary from us in the cheap seats.
I expect. We have always taken
A lot
it.
of comments, in
and will.
fact, because the ordinance from where some of us sit has also flagged.
Well, we're not there yet. That's the whole point. We're going to do yet another round on the ordinance and have a conversation. I suspect at the end of the day that there will be people unhappy with the ordinance in all directions, whatever gets proposed. And I've said from the beginning, and I'll say again, I don't want a one answer response to the current situation in Newport. Mm-hmm. So whatever gets proposed is going to come packaged with actual options on where people can go and what their possibilities are. And I believe that it's appropriate for us to give some guidance for our police department.
That's true, and there are unintended consequences from that particular ordinance as written.
I understand. We're going to have more conversation about it.
Okay.
We aren't anywhere near, in my judgment, until we need another go around about that conversation. There'll be plenty of opportunity for people to give input. Like I said, at the end of the day, Ann and Pam, you may not be happy with it fully, and other people may be unhappy with it for other reasons because it's not punitive enough or who knows what, right? All I'm saying is, my goal is to take a reasonable document that does not criminalize the act of being without a home, that gives police departments some reasonable guidance about how to manage difficult situations, and that it come packaged with actual concrete opportunities and options for people who are without a place to go. That's what we're trying to get to. Okay.
Next meeting is Wednesday.
I wondered, are we supposed to be meeting a week from today, this coming Wednesday?
First and
Technically,
third.
yes.
We had discussed a
First and
change
third.
in days.
Yes. To what? Do you remember? Was it to try and change to Thursdays in
We were
general?
looking at Thursdays, but this Thursday was the first, and then we said we would revisit it when we came.
Yep. Well, I mean, if we're going to have these meetings, which I think we can pull off on Tuesday, to look at some options, we might actually have some things to talk about at the next meeting. And we could set it up for Thursday the 4th. I have a 1-hour slot at 3 o'clock on my calendar that's available, and I'd like to be here for the conversation. If we go to the following week on Thursday, I have a slot from 3 to 4:30, or I could do 3:30 to 4:30. Folks have a preference?
Probably be better.
3:30,
Because I won't be able to do the 4th.
okay. So what if we went to Thursday, September 11th at 3:30? Because 3:30 works best for you with the school schedule, right, Ken?
Yes.
Was there a particular reason why we were moving it from Wednesdays?
Was it something for you, Travis?
Well, I had requested simply because Thursdays, almost every Thursday in the month, is staff meetings for school. 3 of the 4 Thursdays, Wednesdays. Certainly, if that's the only date that works for folks.
Jenna and Chris, how do Thursday afternoons work in general, and how does Thursday the 4th work in specific at 3:30 for you?
Fortunately.
Okay, I see Jenna nodding. Casey, is that going to mess you up?
I'll figure something out.
Okay. And Pam, are you available on Thursday afternoons instead of Wednesdays in general?
Maybe, yes.
Okay.
What I do have to figure out is stuff with the camera, but on that Thursday we have water and sewer in the evening.
Yes, that may just be a thing that happened this time.
Yeah.
Yeah, we may just have to do both on the same day.
So I'll probably have the camera anyway by that time.
Go ahead, Kevin.
At 3:30.
3:30,
Yeah.
and I'm available for an hour. I have another commitment for my other job that I have to start at 4:30, but the group could continue to meet if there was a need. So let's say that we'll go for an hour and go over if need be. So 3:30 on the 11th. And Kevin, can you do a note to the whole list of folks, letting them know that that's our next meeting time?
We're not meeting on the 4th, so.
We will not meet on the 4th. And we do not need to wait until the 11th to take any action to follow up on the meetings next week to look at sites.
3:30 to 4:30.
Yeah. Okay?
Kevin, if you could add Kelsey Fabset to the listserv.
And
He's
who?
Richie.
And who? Sorry, say one more time.
Kelsey Fabset, the executive director of Northeast Kingdom Human Services, and is interested in being a part of the conversation.
Chris, could you send that contact info to Kevin, please, so he can include it when he sends out the next note?
Will do.
Okay. Thank you. And Jenna, you got included now, right? So you're actually on the larger group listserv? Okay. All right. Any other concerns this afternoon? Okay. I think we're done then.
Yeah.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.